So that's all I can tell you, Melanie, because I tried.
Yeah, it's like, geez, Louise. Oh, I think you better let this computer on.
But I understood Doug to say,
We're being recorded now, this meeting is about to start.
what I understood Doug to say was
I can stay here for a while.
that they,
If anyone else goes.
he had gotten an RFP, or he had gotten a contract, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but it just was never followed through on or whatever. I just don't at all. Just trying to figure out what that.
All right, seeing that it's just after 6:30, I'd like to call the Town of Belgrade Board of Select Person, June 21, 2022 meeting to order. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Oh, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses, we're in session. All right, so the first part of the meeting is public comment. And that's the portion of the meeting where you have the chance to bring stuff to the select board's attention that may not be on this evening's agenda. Is there anyone who has something they would like to bring to the board's attention? All right, seeing none, we will move right along to old business. First up, we have the approval of the June 7, 2022 Select Board Meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That is open. That item is open for discussion.
I didn't have any corrections.
They looked okay to me.
I move we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
There's a man right there.
All right, Rick, did you see anything?
Oh, look good to me.
Okay. Anything from you, Dan? All right, Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, so next up is the discussion and consideration of our harassment and sexual harassment policy. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
second.
Moved by Barbara Allen, seconded by Carol Johnson. That item is open for discussion. So essentially, Denny, you chatted with the town's attorney.
Right, I talked to Ann Freeman, and she said that you pretty much can do what you want with the policy, obviously. And it depended how much you wanted and how far you want to go with it. To get vendor compliance, you can get compliance through the contract. You can essentially say, if you don't follow our rules, we'll pull the contract. She did say you could be as risk averse as you want. But that's no guarantee you won't get sued. And if someone sues, it's no guarantee that you won't be found to be in violation. But it gives you the more serious that you show yourself about in the policy about the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace. It's like it lets people who are deciding whether or not you violated know that you're not taking it lightly. So she said that the policy that she had forwarded before was what she recommended, but you certainly could add things.
Or take.
But
things-
they're really
take things
policy
out.
issues that you, or take them out, but they're really policy issues that's up to the board. So, that's why I wrote the memo the way I did, basically. There were a couple policy issues you have. In the previous email to Anthony, when the issue of having volunteers be subject to the policy, she said essentially that the law doesn't require that. It requires town employees. Certainly you would be good if you wanted to have the volunteers at least read it once every 3 years or at the beginning of their term. If that's what you wanted to have done and have them sign off, you do virtually any variation of that. But that's a policy decision. The same thing with vendors. And I think there was some discussion at the last week's board meeting, that essentially there were, most of our vendors, not all of them, obviously, but many of our vendors are one person businesses or two people businesses. And the more you put on them, because bigger businesses have their own sexual harassment.
Right.
Right.
It's the smaller vendors that haven't got them, but there's certainly really under the gun when you say something in the contract saying you have to read and follow our policies or something like that. The more you, I mean, that's essentially where it's at, how much you want them to do, because if you have, in fact, she was supposed to send me some policy language, but she hasn't, I haven't received it yet. I'll have to remind her that you could put in the contract for the small vendors. I know I don't know, Bruce, you still have a contract with the town, and there could be a little addendum to that. I think Dan has a contract with the town, all the smaller vendors, you could have that in. Do you have a, no? We just hire you because you're the only one around. But that's the point.
So we basically have to decide these two policies, which having to do with
That's what I
vendors
think.
and having to do with volunteers.
You want the volunteers to be mandatory every year, which might restrict your ability to get volunteers, I don't know.
Right.
But that's a risk. Or in the same way vendors, it might restrict your ability to get small.
What I'd recommend is just having a normal policy. Volunteers, we ask them to read it and understand they have to follow this. I don't think they necessarily have to go through the training. Town employees, I would say, yes, you go through the training, you sign the paper saying you've had your training and you understand the policy.
Now, do you think we should have volunteers sign something stating that they read the policy?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, yeah, I mean, it just print them off a copy, have them initial it, send it back, and we have a file for that particular organization.
What you could do is, right now, they have to fill out a form. You say, I want to be a volunteer for X, Y, Z.
Make it about it.
Attach that form, you could say, read and sign the following policy, and that would.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of the simple, that's the simplest thing, and I think it covers us.
You can do the same thing on vendors too, if you chose to.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking, is if you have something that simply says, we have this harassment policy in the town of Belgrade. We want to
expect
do
you to
business
follow
with you and
all.
volunteer here, but this is what we have, and if you don't feel like you can follow that,
Yeah, and that's fine too.
not a good place for you.
It's simple and it's not gonna cost the vendor.
And when she gets the model language for a contract that we can insert, and then we do that too. But I think just what you said would probably be sufficient to us.
So do you think that that's sufficient as opposed to training for volunteers? That,
Because I mean, she said it's not required of the law. I mean, as long as they know they have to follow our policy, then they're taking responsibility for their actions.
Well, and
What you
I,
can do on that letter is you could put, if you want more info, you contact the
Yeah.
town
Link to the
manager,
website.
and they can send you to the sexual harassment reporting or whatever.
and I think when you start, you should be handed a copy of it. So here's your application, thanks for signing that, and here's the policy.
Well, what if on that, when they fill out their application, it says, I have read and agreed to comply. So if somebody wants to be in a committee, they've got to read this and
Well, that's
check the
essentially-
box.
I think that's essentially what
And then
Right.
it's, instead of them applying and then we give them the form to sign and we're
Oh, no,
chasing it,
no,
it's
we
like,
Do it as part of your.
they say, I have read and agree to adhere to the harassment policy of the town of Belgrade. And if they don't read it, that, I mean, we can't, we'll never know if they do or not, but they say they have, we have to go on that.
And what about if on the policy, we add the link to the training?
If they want, if you want further
We can put it
training.
right on the application.
Right, for further information, because
For
we
further-
don't, we
for
don't have a
further
link
information.
for the training yet, because we've yet to, I think there was a YouTube one, but we have to have like permission to access it.
Well,
so.
we use one for the fire department, so we're already use
Yeah.
one. So, I mean, all we gotta do is use that same.
Yep.
training.
I think it's online too.
But I would probably put it on the application and also put it with our policy, because if you leave the application with the town of Belgrade, you're not gonna have that link when you leave.
Okay.
Unless we have it in more than one location.
Right, yeah, I think the link should be on the policy.
All right, so, Ricky, what are your thoughts?
I will go along with what Dan said. I think if it's, they've read it, I'm fine with it, but I don't think they need to go to the training.
Volunteers, what are your thoughts with that? Is that a
Volunteers,
deal?
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, volunteers.
Okay. So volunteers, read it and sign it, vendors. When
Read it and sign
you have a
it.
Read it and
contract.
signed it.
Yep,
Employees have to take it.
Vendors are probably gonna be harder than anybody else, so, because some don't even see them.
right.
So can we get that done so we can vote it next meeting, get it off our.
Off our
That's why
recurring-
We've only spent 6 meetings on it.
I know. So, yes, so.
We'll get it, I'll get the changes made. The changes I have.
Yeah.
And I'll have it ready for signature at some point in time.
And-
Call you, let you
And
know.
also a copy of what the appointment form has been adjusted. Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to put that as a tidy up of old business at the next meeting. We can do it that way too.
Yeah.
Just have that.
Sign it and move on.
Yep. Good.
I was gonna
All
say,
right, next up, we have discussion and consideration of the 2021 update to the Kennebec County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Take a motion to open that item.
second.
Moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol. All right, that is open for discussion.
Good evening. My name is Ted Marshall from Kennebec County Emergency Management. I can speak for a second if you'd like.
Sure.
So
Welcome,
good evening.
Ted.
Like I said, my name is Ted Marshall. I'm a planner with Kennebec County Emergency Management. This evening, I'm here to request the select board vote to approve and adopt the Kennebec County Hazard Mitigation Plan 2021 update. The last update in 2016, and effort started to update this plan in 2020. This plan's updated every 5 years. The plan covers the efforts of the municipalities and agencies within Kennebec County to identify, plan, and take action to mitigate the impacts of local hazards. The plan focuses on 4 main hazards facing the county. That's flooding, summer storms, wildfire, and winter storms. Overall, there were no major updates to the plan, and most of the updates were cosmetic, like updating populations, updating storms and flooding data, and also updating dollar figures for potential losses using the Consumer Pricing Index. Currently, the town has 3 mitigation projects on file: the Bartlett Road Culvert Update, the Dunn Road Ditch and Culvert Update, and the Chandler Road Ditch and Culvert Update. As of right now, those are both deferred due to lack of funding. Once approved and adopted, the plan will be formally adopted by FEMA and kept on file. In the future, FEMA is looking to change the focus of the mitigation plans to be more centered around community development. FEMA released guidance back in April of this year that'll take effect in April of next year. Currently, we are still working to have a better understanding of what that looks like, but it looks like we will try to be more active in community development throughout the county. At this time, I can take any questions you might have.
So Ted, if we sign this tonight, is there any way for Belgrade to update our list?
You can update your
Okay.
list at any time.
Okay, so we can still,
Yep, you can still submit projects anytime. The more projects you have in there, the better it looks.
Okay.
Isn't the Bartlett Road done? We already did Bartlett.
Bartlett Road was you're talking about the crossing?
The culvert.
Yeah.
That was done in 2007.
General.
Yeah, you can take Bartlett Road off our list.
General
Okay.
roads,
That was
Chandler
done.
Road's done.
Chandler Road's done as well.
Okay.
I think,
Look at us making space here for Belgrade to get more projects.
There is no limit to how many projects you can have.
Okay. But shouldn't they drop off if they're completed?
Yes, and it might have been where it may have just gotten lost in the emailing for us when we're updating this plan. But again, you can add stuff at any time. It actually, it's better to have more in there and keep adding stuff. That's not a problem.
And Ted, how exactly do we add to the list? Does it go through the town manager? Does it go through our road commissioner, our roads committee?
You can go through your local email planner as well.
Okay,
They can email us.
okay, thank you. Denny?
yeah, I think there was a survey that was filled out earlier this year that would have taken those off, but somehow they got missed. So I think that's why they're still on there. The other thing is, I prefer, as, I won't be here, but as a town manager, I prefer that all of those go through the town manager. Certainly, all of those folks can recommend projects, but someone has to track those.
Right.
And at least in the town, the county may track them, but at least in the town. So we know what's going on. That's what.
This hazard mitigation, didn't we have this on the last agenda? And we didn't have a copy of, we were trying to find out exactly what it
Yeah,
said.
we received the report in the email.
Okay, that's
In
why,
May.
that's why.
The
Yeah,
reason-
I have a question. Well, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, the reason why you deferred it, at least as I understand at the last meeting, was because you hadn't had a chance to review it.
You haven't said.
Well,
That's
that's
fine. We sort of got lost in the emails. But I have a question, and maybe this is because we didn't fill out the survey, but on section 4, page 37 of the assets, we do have a health clinic in town, not a hospital, but, would that be considered? If we have a Belgrade Regional Health Center, would that be counted as a hospital or clinic? Should that
That's
be on
not
the
covered.
list?
Clinics are not covered under through FEMA guidance. It can only be hospitals.
Okay.
The other, I would suggest that all of our lakes have just done management surveys, and there are a number of properties that are owned by the town that are considered spewing, spewing and some of them, but that are contributing dirt into the lakes. So I think we should get a list of those properties. I think I have it, Danny, but a list of those properties, and all of those should be listed on the survey. So if we do have a storm or flooding, we've already listed ones that we know are currently have active erosion into the lakes. I think, and it's Messalonski's done it, Salmon McGraw, Great Pond, Long Pond, have all just done them in the last 2 years.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Ted? Seeing none, are we ready to sign that?
Yes.
Do we have a copy for us to sign tonight, Denny?
It was sent by email. I didn't bring all the copies. You can sign that cover page that you have in your book, and I'll just put it on the copy and send it back. I think that's all you need is the cover page, right?
I would,
There's a specific signature page that we dropped off that needs to be signed.
yeah, this one that has the resolution, so
Yeah.
I may, Ted, it may take us a few days to get it back, just the way this is copied, it's like sideways, a kind of a skew on the page and not a whole lot of ink, so probably let's get a better copy and just have the board sign that before it gets sent off.
Not a problem.
We have time before the 15th.
Do you
to
have
do
a
that.
darker one? Oh, yours is kind of the same. See how it's like.
Okay, I'll get it for you to come in tomorrow, son.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, we're gonna be here tomorrow night, Danny.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, that'll work.
But make a motion and stuff so that we just.
Yes. So I make a motion that the board signs the agreement for the Kennebec County Hazard Mitigation Plan 2021 update.
Second.
Moved by Melanie, seconded by Barbara. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Ricky,
Yes,
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Dan?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next up, we have discussion and consideration of hiring a safety consultant. I'll take a motion to open that item. Moved by
Second.
Barbara, seconded by Carol. That item is open for discussion.
So,
Go for it, Danny.
yeah, so at the last meeting, I think you were pretty positive about signing it, and getting it. You wanted to know where the money would potentially come from. I've identified sources of funding. The other question that was in the other question was whether or not we wanted to include the surcharge on fuel as part of the contract or a separate charge. So I drafted up, I had her draft up another set of contracts, depending on which way you want to go, that would essentially include the service charge into both the manual for safety compliance for the maintenance department and for the recreation department. That would have been $100 each, and that was a $200 fuel service charge, so. Yeah, so depending how you want to, I think, Dan, you were the one that suggested it should be somebody doing that.
Yeah.
We don't have,
yeah, I mean, she was charging a surcharge, but if the price of fuel went down, she wasn't taking the surcharge off it, so it's not really.
Yeah.
Fuel surcharge.
so I've got these contracts for the. You can do the old ones.
so the net cost is still the same,
Yeah.
$4,000.
did you say she wouldn't take the surcharge off? Dan?
She took, no, she said that her costs are, the contract's been the same for a number of years. And she says she's been basically keeping that, and the fuel surcharges this year forced her into that surcharge for the fuel. And she said probably the contract would go up next year. Essentially, is the conversation.
Yeah, she said basically, that was the price. If the price of fuel went down, we were still gonna pay that fuel surcharge, so,
So we should just call it as part of the,
Travel expense.
right, well, it should just be part of the contract.
Not going fuel. surcharge.
Right, if you're gonna charge it, you're gonna charge it. Just do it as part of the contract.
so that coordinating package went from 1,300 to 1,400 on each of them, is that what it did? Doesn't really matter. The extra $100 that was there.
Oh, I have that here, Danny, what I was
That's
doing.
doable.
I was looking between the old one and the new one. All right. And there's no way for us to tie them all in as
It's not,
one.
the way they sequence, and we may be able to work that out in the future contract, but the way they're sequenced right now, they've already started. And perhaps next year, what we could do is you could have the fire department pay for the regular contracts, and then the rest of the town offices have to pay, but have the cost lowered for the following year based on the number of months that were used this year. So sure, we can work it out, but not right now.
Yeah,
Gonna save us from any fine that might be coming.
It certainly would help protect us in terms of the level of fine. I think it would certainly show that we're serious about improving the safety
Right,
of both of those all three areas. So that certainly goes into consideration.
I think we're at no, we need to do it. We need to get us up to date, and if this is what it takes to get us back on the right keel, then let's do it.
is that your motion, Ricky?
Yes,
So Ricky makes a motion that we agree to the contract with Lynn Gilly for safety compliant from Fire Service Compliance Associates,
Second.
seconded by Dan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Ann,
Yeah,
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol.
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. Let's move that forward. Not sure if we sign this or not, that he does, so. All right, next up on the agenda is discussion with All States Materials Group about the east-west lane shimming costs. Take a motion to open that item.
So be it.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Ricky. That is now open for discussion. Now, before anybody talks who's not part of this little group here, just identify yourself because the person who's doing our meeting minutes is taking them from this video. So just identify who you are before you speak and wait to be called on if possible. Denny.
Just to bring up to speed. Last meeting, you asked that we get together with Jason, Jason's on it, I believe, and All State Materials Group and talk about this and find the contracts and all of that. So I looked for the contracts and they were either misplaced or whatever. I can't find a contract. This is Mr. Doug Fowler. He's with All State Materials. I asked him if he had a contract and he said,
I do not have a contract.
and that's when I said, well, you got a serious problem. He said that. Jason, are you on?
He is,
I'm right here.
Okay, so Jason and I met with Doug, and Jason has been at the road, looked at the road, and I believes that it needs to be, to save the road the way it is, because of the way, if you remember how it was, they described last meeting, they really tried to save material, so they really pressed down and it kind of pulled away the center line a little bit. So that, you don't want water to get down in there, so you need to.
Well, not to Doug Fowler, on States Construction, not the center line, but in the lane. Because of the wheel running and to try and keep the yield down, you can notice that in the center of the lane, each lane, it's thin at that highest point. That makes sense to you.
So,
okay, because it felt like at the last meeting, it was, we had a lovely drawing and then we talked about it for a really long time. And then it was, well, this isn't actually the road we're talking about. This is normal, what we see, but that's not what happened over there. So over there was something about the middle of the road crowned a little bit differently. It said it wasn't so much the wheel ruts, I thought.
My understanding is that due to the excessive wheel running on east-west lane, that which is very difficult to calculate what kind of volume is going to be used up in that running. That's where the overage went. So you still have, the high point in the middle of the lane that has thin material. The leveling course is commonly known as the shim. So if you go down that road, you'll notice that it looks like it's like you can kind of pick the stones, you can see the stones in the mix. So that's very open. And if that goes through the winter plowing season, a lot of that will get scraped up.
So we talk about all kinds of things, right? When we don't have a signed contract, at least he said, and I think Ron Sabari
Yes.
at the last meeting also referred to the fact that he did not have a signed contract. So we don't know where that contract is. So we're trying to find, I guess you're gonna try to send, I mean, I've got a copy of a blank contract unsigned. In any case, the other thing that comes up in this whole thing is that the asphalt escalator, I put in, I think I gave you copies of what the language is for the asphalt escalator. That's in both Pike's contract, or you didn't, but I've got, I thought I did, but maybe I didn't.
I'd like that copy.
There's an asphalt escalator clause in virtually all the road work we've done since 2008, I believe, 2009. And that asphalt escalator clause says you basically take the charge for liquid asphalt, the cost for liquid asphalt, at the time you signed the contract. And then at the end of the contract, if it goes up significantly, I would assume a small variation wouldn't take place, but if it goes up significantly, which it has done this year, there's a cost to that. And there's a way to calculate that. And Jason, do you want to go into that?
Yeah, so I talked to one of the guys at Pike today, and to date right now, what they have put down is $432,000 worth of pavement. And there's increase in that of $16,492 because of the asphalt paving going up. So that's only about a little more than half of what we have to get done this year. So it's going to be about 30 grand more than what we figured.
Right. And then there's another $3,600 calculated as of today, $3,600, I believe, asphalt escalator in the all state materials contract. That's just to say there's some cost overruns. Now, the state of Maine, under the law, allows for a road commissioner to go to the town board of select, the municipal official, board of select officials, and request an overage to go over by up to 15%. And then you would put out a warrant, the next available warrant for people to vote on, that would be probably in November, to pick up that extra cost. So that's what I talked to the lawyer about. And that's available. The problem is, we kind of signed our way into, well, we kind of wrote our way into negating that state law in the way we wrote the warrant article. The warrant article basically, and I'll just simplify, basically says to the town, okay, we're going to contract for this amount of work. If the cost comes under that, we're not going to spend any more than cost. If it goes over that, we're going to cut back work. We're not going to ask for more money. So that kind of negates the state law, at least unless you wanted to push the issue and see whether or not state law preempts local law. My sense is that's wrong. There's two avenues here. The town can decide, well, we don't need to do that. We'll just follow the state law. And then there's the warrant article that you'll have to explain to the people, right? Or you can say, we're going to cut back work. Now, we looked at that, right, Jason? We looked at the transfer station
Yeah, I
complex.
pretty much pulled the brakes off for right now.
Yeah, that is on hold right now. The cost of that is right around, what was it, 72,000?
40 something, I thought, 48.
48,000.
I was like, are we at 72 now, with the cost of asphalt going up? Because I think we were 40.
I think that would be a good to skip if we had to skip one. I mean, the transfer station to save money, so.
So,
But the problem, so I guess the problem that I have, Jason, with us skipping the transfer station complex completely was that originally, because of the way this warrant article was written, we said we'd reduce the scope of the work. So then transfer station road came out of that. But everybody here and the roads committee folks that were here and transfer station recycling committee all said, please don't kick that can down the road 3 more years, because this is a 3-year paving project. And that road is not going to hold up for 4 years. So if we take it off the table, what are we doing with it?
I guess the question is if we overrun the costs on the paving with like Pike and them, do you want to borrow more money or do you want to not do the transfer? I mean, where's the money gonna come from? I guess.
so the question is, where can you cut back in other aspects of the road construction? But that doesn't answer the basic question that was presented to us, the $8,000 overrun.
Right,
It just gives you more complexity.
Dan?
We're trying to compare apples to oranges. I understand the asphalt escalator. That's the price of the liquid asphalt that goes in to make the asphalt, the tire to put down. That's not what happened on East-West Lane.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's nothing to do with asphalt escalator.
No,
Right.
but I'm just trying to add in all the other.
That was material overages
Right.
that weren't estimated correctly.
Oh, right.
So my thing for starters is, if we don't have a signed contract, how did that road ever get done?
Well, that's what I'm
Because
trying
it
to.
never should have been started.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. I guess the only thing I can come up with is there were conversations, and certainly we accepted the bid.
We
Right.
did-
And there were conversations that said essentially we would go forward with it. And I think that, and I'm not putting words in all state materials, no, I'm not trying to, but I think there was an understanding that we get the contract signed. And for whatever reason, they may have, I just can't find anyone in all state that says they have. And they're trying to get something back to me, right?
Yes.
No, did
That-
they
that's
get
my
a contract to sign?
I believe that they have possession of the contract
Okay,
signed by Mr. Wilson.
okay, so
Okay.
he signed it, they just haven't. gotten
They
it.
didn't sign it, send it back to us.
Okay,
So therein lies the problem that I said, that's a big problem for you guys.
and for
But-
us,
But then again, there was an understanding that, you know,
I thought the
So
guy
for-
told us last time that they didn't have a signed contract.
he did,
No, he said that they
That's
didn't
right.
sign one, is what he said.
right, he
Go
said,
back and look at it.
right, he said that they hadn't signed one.
I believe
So-
that, though, he didn't have a signed contract either, but
All right, Bruce,
Bruce Kalush. So, of course, Kenny and I have been talking about this because Jason met with Kenny last week at the transfer station with Pike. And like Kenny said, it may entail Jason doing some code patching or so on and so forth for the next 3 years, but for the taxpayers and the town's best interest, we probably can limp it by until the next paving project. You know, it may take some repairs from from Jason throughout the next 3 to 4 years, if we have breakup or anything like that. But we could get by, so the town could get all its paving projects completed, other than the transfer station where that's a dead end road and it's just, residents in and out, and, yes, we have heavy traffic in and out of there, but I believe Jason said that he thought that would be acceptable.
what is
all right,
it told the taxpayers on the article? I think we told the taxpayers what we was gonna do, and that was part of it.
Don't we have two issues here? One
Yes.
issue is what are we gonna do in east-west lane, and the other is what are we doing paving?
right,
So
that's what I
let's-
was just gonna,
And then go resolve the other.
so I'm gonna just throw this out there, Doug, and I don't try to be like the bad guy, but Allstate Materials Group is the only one who does chip sealing. There's nobody else who could have estimated that properly. So we were relying on you folks who came and looked at the road twice, once to walk to go over the road, decide if it was a good candidate, and a second one for the bid for the road. So I guess I'm hesitant to feel like we're on the hook for something when there was nobody else to compare it to. It wasn't like, 3 vendors came in and the one we picked used more material than they had agreed to. So I guess that's kind of my sticking point, is that there wasn't anybody else to do it except you folks. So who else would have estimated it properly?
So to answer your question, so chip sealing is, the chip seal is the product that's applied to the surface once the shimming and underlying surface is prepared. So the chip sealing estimate is usually spot on. There shouldn't be really any overage in that. But what we're looking at is the actual shim course. And that's a difficult calculation to estimate that. Can only go essentially by like window observation of the road condition, and then going by the length and the width of the road.
And you wouldn't if you noticed wheel running, because I traveled the road and there's a heck of a dip about 3/4 of the way down. And I was like, well, this part didn't get filled. But I was like, well, maybe this is, just the way the road goes. But wouldn't, if you were estimating for that, wouldn't somebody have hopped out and measured the depths of some of those wheel ruts? You know, much like when I took my driving test and they hopped out with a ruler to see if I was more than a foot from the curb.
Mhm.
Wouldn't that be part of the process?
It is, part of the process, but again, you're talking, the length of the road. So to get an accurate average depth, you're gonna, you basically make a career out of measuring or equating that one road to try and get the precise volume of asphalt that it's gonna require. So we try and do the best we can with our experience, because we know that nobody likes to have surprises. But it is, again, it's an estimation. Much like the way the bid was written, the square yards are estimated. I had to handwrite in the shim quantity. Unfortunately, I didn't put EST period before my quantity. So maybe that's where the confusion is, that it was a precise amount. All road work is in estimated square yards, estimated tons. Just because there's so many unknown variables, because it's essentially impossible to, get a very precise measurement on the volume that the road's going to take.
So is the $8,000 overage, is that any of that increased cost, or is that just the amount of material that was miscalculated?
That was just that's the amount of material that's miscalculated.
Okay, so none of that $8,000 is because the cost of liquid asphalt's gone up.
No,
Bruce?
not that I recall.
Bruce Galush. I think in years past, but don't quote me on this, I think in years past, either it was Pike or whoever was doing the paving with, we get an estimate for so many tons of asphalt. And if it's under that amount of asphalt, we get a decrease. If it's over that amount of asphalt, we pay the difference. I think it's been that way for years.
And that's true, because we go strictly by the tickets that come with the trucks that have the precise weight down to the 10th of a ton. And that's what we do our billing by. Typically, a town would have a representative out, not typically, but often a town would have a representative like the road commissioner or his designee out counting, actually counting the trucks, taking the tickets. Could even go as far as taking the temperature of the mix as it's coming out of the truck, taking the temperature of the mix so it's on the ground, being placed, etc.
Well, and I know that a lot of that has been done in the past, and
You can't get away with trying to pull a fast one. It has to be highly embarrassing to try and do so.
So is the road now ready for the chip sealing, or are you saying there's extra work that needs to be done before we can chip seal?
And the road is ready for chip sealing.
Okay, so getting the water down in or whatever, that's, if we chip seal it, that doesn't happen.
If we chip seal it,
Well, I thought there was discussion about the fact that water might get in. Is that if we don't chip seal?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Bruce?
Has anybody made a phone call to Morris, just get his opinion on this, considering he's got a lot of years of pavement experience being road commissioner?
No, I haven't called Morris. I talked to our local commissioner. and
Right.
Jason's got experience.
But I think this is Jason's first paving project.
I got one question. Is it, so Pike is by the ton, so how many of the tons they put out of base, that's what they charge us for? So is it the same with them? Is it how many tons they put out? Is that what they charge us for? Or how is it written?
Yeah, do we have a copy of what, that's what I was kind of going through here, because I keep a lot of stuff, and that I didn't have was a copy of what we approved on May 17th.
That's what I got. Pike today, the total amount of tonnage and how much they put out. So that's how I got my calculations for what the cost was up to date, so.
You're looking for a copy of the bid award
Yeah, just,
for Pike or for?
well, Allstate's the only one we're talking about right now.
Right.
So,
Looking for a copy of the bid request.
yeah,
Absolutely.
The request or what we voted on.
We would have voted on what they gave us.
I have a copy of the bid we submitted.
yeah, do you have a
That's
copy
what
of
we're
that?
looking for.
Yeah, can I sneak a peek at that?
May I approach the table?
Yes, please do.
As long as you're a brave man, you can.
All right.
So Jason, what's your thoughts about this? What do you think we ought to do?
Well, it all depends how it was bid. Is it bid by the ton or is it bid by the job? I mean, Pike is bid by the ton, so every ton they get out, put out is what they get paid for. If they only put out 100 tons, they get paid for 100. They put out 150, they get paid for 150. So I know that's how they get paid, so.
So are all of your contracts done that way by the ton as opposed to by the bid?
Right, we seldom go by a lump sum because of the amount of variables that are involved. And it's both for the contractor's benefit, but also the customer's benefit. Now, if we went with a lump sum, especially the way things are escalating, I would imagine that the town would probably pay more.
Oh, you would, you're saying if you went by the job, you would have bid substantially higher
Yes,
because you didn't want to get caught short.
correct. Much like if you had a contractor at your own home, you'd rather probably pay time and materials.
Right.
I mean, right now, if I have to bid a house, I'm bidding a house like $10,000 more than.
Right, because you don't want to get caught.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, that makes logical sense.
Well, it's the same thing when I do bids on fire expressions.
So let me ask you something else, Jason. If there was a road that you would pave to save some money to offset this chip sealing deal, which one would you not do besides the transfer station? Is there anything you could? All ground, aren't they?
No, you can't right now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna,
The only thing that hasn't been started is the transfer station. And I talked with Pike and they even admitted we're kind of just like still piecing together. He's like, it's so pieced together up there.
it's terrible.
It's not right from the complex, and go right to the road and do the whole thing. One shot.
I kind of thought you had them all ground. I've been looking at them and
They'll be done by the end of this week. They'll all be done. All the road,
paved, you mean?
all done, surfaced, everything, except for probably shoulder work.
Jason, just a little separate question. When you turn onto School Street from 27, right now there's a big bump. I assume that will be evened out in a final
Yeah,
something or other?
yeah.
Okay.
Tomorrow, actually, they're gonna put the finish coat on it.
Okay, yeah, someone said, would you ask that question because the bump's worse than it was before?
Yeah,
Okay, I will.
Guys wanted it slow up there and he's slowing
Yeah.
it down for you.
Yeah, well, you do go bumping him up right now. But the rest of it is really smooth, and School Street hasn't been smooth for,
yeah.
15 years. It's been awful.
So what was the actual tonnage used on East West Line?
I think it was, I think it went 9 ton over.
Yeah, but I don't know the total.
So in this one has 280 tons was what was estimated.
I think it was right around 370.
Yeah. square yards.
What are you trying to find?
I want to just see what we had agreed to, which is this here, which is the 280 tons.
I got the square yards.
I guess what I was saying now is, you guys accept a little bit, the transfer station to me would be acceptable if you guys just put off the transfer station, use that to pay your east-west, pay off your overages with pipe, and make it, kind of a clean wash for this year, and, the next year's payment, the next time you guys pay, you'd have to be on the beginning of the list. So,
Is there anything to prevent us from doing a special warrant to pave the transfer station a year or two from now? I
there
mean, I
is-
know we're trying to do every 3 years, but
I think we're gonna, I mean, looking at the town roads, I mean, one road that we thought, my understanding was it's gonna jump to the north end of town. The Foster Point Road is like School Street was and probably worse. So that's gonna have to be on the next paving project.
There's nothing for you to prevent you. The only thing that I would say that you have to look at is how you want to deal with the warrant, which says it's a 3-year bond.
right,
You're gonna do X amount, if it doesn't go over, you won't spend any more than it costs. If it goes over, you're gonna cut back. That's the warrant article that kind of binds you.
right. But if we cut back and that leaves the transfer station out. So my question is, there's nothing to prevent us next year or the year after from saying, we're going to do a special warrant because we had to cut this out and it now won't last. So,
Nothing at all to prevent you from doing it.
Right, the only
Okay.
question is how to pay for it, because now this is all part of bond.
well, I understand
Yeah.
that, but there's nothing to prevent us from doing
Well, as long as the town votes to approve it, then you can go out for
it.
it.
Town could go out and bond again if they wanted to. I mean, that's part of figuring out how do we pay our bills.
Yeah,
Bruce, does any of the money for the transfer station road come out of your capital reserve? You know,
Did not.
Okay.
None of it was coming out of the capital reserve.
that was coming out of road commissioner budget, correct?
Correct.
So
Okay.
technically, the money's not there to pay for. I mean, that's what we were trying to have Jason do the work, and then we we're gonna pay for that out of the road commissioner budget. So it's not like we have a spare 40 grand.
Right, exactly.
And if we're saying 32,000 over, and is that like a minimum, or are we looking at,
Well, it depends on how much they laid, how much the tonnage is. They've got about 400 laid, as I understand Jason telling me this afternoon. Which
Yeah.
equates to about $65,000 or $16,000 in escalator costs at today's price. right?
Yeah.
Could go up. And then they got another 300 and some thousand to lay. Allstate Materials has another 400 dollars, very similar to Pikes. And they're about 3,600 if it was over today for escalator.
so can I ask a question of the Allstate guy?
yeah,
Is there any? chance
Yes,
you
Doug.
can- Is there any chance you can do any better on that price? Is that a firm? Can you help us out? I mean, I think you guys screwed up as much as everybody else.
we didn't screw up, Ricky. We didn't do the estimate.
Well, I know.
Relied on the experts.
Well, I'm just saying, something wasn't planned right and the contract wasn't signed. There- here. So is there anything you guys can do? On your side?
That's above my pay grade to answer that question. I do have
Well, I mean-
the actual total of the asphalt place.
Okay.
The answer to that was what?
Oh, he said it's above his pay grade.
So who would we have to talk to?
Most likely Ron Simbari,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and what was the actual tonnage?
370.81 tons.
That was actually crazy.
That's.
I think before we pay this, we ought to see if they can help us out some here. We take
Okay.
care of our roads. We always take the beating here.
All right, Denny?
So, depending on which way you folks go, I'll contact Ron Sandari tomorrow. And we'll see exactly what Ricky, what you said. We'll see whether or not there's any room for them to move. Question I have is, so what if they say no? Then what do we do?
We'll be back to another meeting here.
That's about where we're at. Because, yeah, no, it's always possible for them to say no. Now, I know that they're going to try to maintain good community relationship. That's what they do. That's their business. So how they react to it, I don't know, but nonetheless, we'll ask.
Well, I mean, Ron essentially said at the last meeting that normally if you folks were doing several roads in town and you had overage on one, you would make up for it by cutting back on another road. Then he also was, kind of seemed unaware that the Minot Hill Road was going to be chip sealed. So he was like, oh, we're doing another project in Belgrade. And I was like, is the wheels turning there right now? You're like, how much can we cut back? Can we cut back $8,000? But that one isn't getting shipped.
Right.
That's just getting the
Yeah.
chip seal.
The only thing you can do on that is shorten the length that's going to go to chip seal. I don't know how much it would take to add up to $8,000.
The whole road.
But the way he was talking about adjusting it on, if you had a big enough project, it made me think that we should have had Pike do the whole thing. Because Pike was using their bid as part of their bid. Remember, we had them
Yeah.
as part of the bid, and they could have worked it out with the rest of their roads.
Well, that's.
But Pike wasn't chip sealing, right?
Yeah, they were, part of their bid was to go through them, and we're using them as
Oh,
a
oh.
But it
subcontractor.
would have been the same, wouldn't it have been the same outcome because.
No, because Pike might have been able to
Well,
mess with the other roads to.
all depends if the tonnage was, if the tonnage went over.
Right.
Right,
We would pay the
right,
tonnage. If we did it through Pike, we'd be paying the tonnage anyway.
right.
So,
I think what the point was is that if you've got a much larger project going,
right,
that you might be able to find some areas
That you
that,
could-
don't need as much thickness being placed. You have more area to. kind
area,
of
yeah. You have more
Not
room to
really.
fudge around and,
Not cheat out the end product, but just kind of, modify the place.
right,
Right.
right.
Stretch it out a little bit.
And we're talking about 3 truckloads.
Amazing. So it sounds like we're not ready to make a decision tonight. Is that where we're at?
Jason, are you comfortable weighing in? Like, what's your opinion?
So if we're paying by the ton, I think we're responsible, but if it's a set price, I mean, I don't know how it's worded. Is it worded that we pay so much per ton? I mean, that's how Pike's is laid out. 87, I think it's $87 a ton. Other people like 90 and
I said, the bid there says 280 tons.
280 tons
That is
at
what a price.
110.19 a ton.
I have a
Doesn't
quick
say
question.
estimate, but it's estimate.
Yes.
So you said that I wasn't here for the bid opening, unfortunately, but you said that Pike submitted a bid with our chip seal,
I believe it did, because we said.
so they must have estimated the shim on east and west.
Look back here, go back in there. No, we talked about it because
Kind of a roll of the dice, but I'm wondering what they estimated for tonnage.
Why don't we,
Why
let
don't we
me
try to
look
get
into
that?
this, because these are questions that are just new to me. I didn't know Pike was involved in any way with the chip seal bid.
Nor did-
I don't think they were. I really don't. I was there when the bids were open. I don't think they had a chip seal.
Because I thought, because Allstate Materials was the only one that did the chip sealing, that they were the only one that got the.
Nah,
yeah, maybe it was Pike that said, well, we can do it, but we'll just recommend that. you go.
I'm pretty sure they didn't put in a chip seal bid.
Now, let's see.
I thought I remember pulling something out.
So are we back to the question of, is this by the ton or by the job? Is that the question we're trying to get answered?
Much.
And if that is the contract that was agreed to, but perhaps not signed, Does that say by the ton or by the job?
So the overall cost, so it's exactly what Barbara has right there. This is what we saw. Tabulation of the bids. 62,981 plus 49,720 for a total of 112,701.
Right. No, I know what that says. My question is there a clause or something in the contract, or is the contract this?
That is the contract. And if
The-
you're
the
talking
con-
about the
The
asphalt.
contract draft, and I have to unsigned copy,
Right.
essentially says the contractor shall furnish all the services, all of the services, material, and perform all of the work described in the request for bid and specifications, titled request for bid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And shall do so in accordance with the contract proposal dated May 4th. And then it just says required by the agreement, do everything required by the agreement. So it's based on that bid, whatever that bid was.
And all the quantities were estimated.
Right,
The square yards are even estimated.
right. I mean,
And
if
I
it's
guess that's
standard-
where I'm trying to get is if,
Right. If it's standard for these to be
Estimates,
estimates,
then-
why does why is this contract not fall under that same
right.
generality?
I'll be talking to Ron tomorrow, and we'll get answers to the questions. You understand the questions as well as I think, Jason, maybe we can talk tomorrow too,
Sure.
and I'll send out an email. and get that all cleaned up for you. I don't know when the bill is going to come in because
Oh, here we go. Prices of the-
You haven't gotten it yet?
Asphalt price adjustment.
Yeah, that's the escalator on the price of asphalt, but not the
Mhm. Yeah, I know.
tonnage.
and I'll talk to Ron about whether or not there's some room for negotiation here. It seems like it would be promising evidence.
And Jason, if we have to come up with $8,000, where do you see it coming from?
I don't know. I mean,
Because there's clearly no more than what we bonded for.
right,
because
well, we're gonna have the problem with Pike too, with the escalating cost of another 30 some odd thousand, $40,000.
Right, well, right now, I'm just thinking about where would we get
Oh, yeah.
eight?
Yeah.
You know,
Other
because
than
we're
another
virtually
warrant.
saving 40 by taking it out of that, out of the total project, which is what we told the taxpayers we'd do. But now, that 40,000 is kind of virtual. It's like, well, Jason could do this out of his budget. But then, you know, is that where we'd pull $8,000 from is your road maintenance budget? And then how's that gonna affect your budget? If we're looking at overage for that and for Pike.
Dealing different things, yeah. I mean, it would, if budget's going pretty quick as it is, so I mean, we can, but it's gonna take from something else.
There's
If
some
we take
reserve
out-
account for the road. Is there a road
There's the bond,
reserve account?
there's a bond, but it's put into an account by itself that we pay for paving.
But that's all allocated.
There is a,
And I wasn't aware that the transfer station itself was not part of that. I just missed that in the conversation. So when Jason suggested that we take it up, I assumed that that was gonna come right off the bond.
yeah, I just figured we just hold off and wait and see how the money all played out before we jumped in, because that was not started and, I mean, something that wasn't getting affecting anything, so if we still have the money, do it, but if we can't come up with the money, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the way I was thinking.
So the money for the road, the transfer station complex, that one area that we said we would pay, the money for that is in your budget.
No, in the paving,
No.
Bond.
It's in the bond.
in the
right,
bond?
the gravel, the groundwork, the extra gravel and the excavation was gonna come out of my budget.
Originally, that was in part of the bond too. We pulled it out and said, well, we can do that
So if
without
we,
going over by doing it that
if
way.
we withhold from doing the transfer station road,
That'll cover Pike. hopefully.
that'll cover, well, it's
It'll cover all of it.
42,000 or 48,000.
No. No, because the bids between Pike and Allstate for the chip sealing came in 40,000 over what we
Oh, I see what you're
bonded.
saying.
So then by virtue of what we had in the warrant article, we took a piece of the paving project out so that we would have enough money to pay you and pay Pike. And now we don't.
Plus, we cut a section of the pavement out, because we had planned on more pavement, but we
Right.
did plan on doing just the worst of it, transfer station.
Now, I understand on Guptill Road, there was an overage estimated on that by pipe of some number of 100 feet, Jason?
Yeah, because it was supposed to, it was like an old county road that continued up through there. So on, somewhere on the map, the tax map, it showed like the distance of the road going way past what really was paved up there on the Gupta Road, but they corrected that in the rest.
So that, is that money available? I mean, if they don't have that.
No, that was corrected. I'm pretty sure that was corrected before it was signed and all that. It was all corrected.
Right.
We'll see what we can do about negotiating some of the price down through all state.
Okay,
You know, I'd be more comfortable splitting the difference with them, you know, half of it's our fault, and half of it's their estimating fault. But
Doug, could we get together tomorrow?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, let's text me your schedule.
Do we have his?
And
That what you want?
This is Doug's.
as far as the asphalt escalator, that's basically it will be not doing the transfer station complex. That's what, where that money will come from?
yeah, at this point, that's what it looks like. Unless something happens and something goes down before we get to that.
Okay,
Well, we just should confirm that 100 feet or whatever was taken out and isn't in there.
yeah, I think I remember now seeing the footage cut. I remember seeing that in the contract. Or in the bid.
Okay. Sorry, we don't have a great answer tonight, Doug.
Thank you for your time.
Sure. My pleasure.
We're eating up at $8.
He's like, and then. we're visiting the town center, right?
But I bet they get signed contract, they sign that signed contract, so they start to work on it.
He's gonna give me the signed contract. Because we've already signed it, so we're obligated.
Well, we signed it and we voted to do it.
Right.
It's sort of like your word is your bond. Let's,
Right, we just were
We're
waiting
not
for
gonna
them to
split a
get
hair
the
from
contract. We can't, I don't think that that's. I don't think that would be successful. Okay,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Good night.
Yeah,
straight out.
To yours, straight out.
Right. No,
Straight
no,
right.
no.
Turn that way.
Yeah, right.
He gets lost in the bowels of the building. All right, next up, we have cable franchise agreement negotiations. I'll take a motion to open that item.
so moved.
Okay, that was a tie, so we'll go moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara on that one. All right, that is open for discussion.
Great.
So you were negotiating with them, Denny?
Yeah, we went through it. It's pretty much, we changed what you saw in the cable, the memo I attached. to the
So
So the
15
agreement
years
was
to
moved
10.
from 15 years to 10 years. The required a shorter notification time frame. So the indemnification was changed. Insurance, they went from $1 million up to $2 million because we've had that contract forever, right?
Right.
So it should have gone up, so they did that. And so they were pretty accommodating to that. I attached a copy of what the language was, it was corrected. So all we have to do is, once you approve the language, we'll put it out for public hearing at the next board meeting, I assume. It'll be at the beginning of the board meeting, and so that you can vote on it and
Afterwards.
if there's no changes requested.
Okay.
What was the last part of that, Denny? What did you say about changes, like we'd send this?
I requested a number of changes that I've identified. There's a copy of her email back to me in front of me.
Right.
It's on the
So that
back.
basically
It's on the
says what
back.
she would,
Yeah.
Yeah.
based on our conversation, I basically cleared that up a little bit, put it in concise.
Yeah, what was the, I read your gross annual revenue incorrectly when we were on the phone. It does not include fee on fee, so I left the definition as is.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Her first part of it, had you asked her to change the definition of gross revenues?
Right, initially, we thought that there was a double counting in there that would reduce our income. In further looking, there was.
Okay. That's why I was like, I didn't understand that, so I was like. Scan and email me the signature page. All right, so I make a motion that the board approve this contract with Spectrum, or cable franchise agreement. What's that?
To go to public hearing.
To go to public hearing.
I'll second it.
All right, moved by Melanie, seconded by Barbara. Now, they're requesting a signed copy be emailed back to them.
Right, but they also know that we have to go to public hearing before we do anything. Before it goes to public hearing, I'll have her clean up, change the language, not the language, but what she did was, she did the markup. So
Yeah,
I'll just have her do it in a regular format, so we can put that copy out to public hearing, and then that'll be the signed copy.
and Mary Vogel.
Yes.
Do we have some crazy amount of days before something for this public hearing, or could we do the public hearing on it at the beginning of the next board meeting?
We can do it the beginning of the next board meeting. I'll just get it all posted. So we'll have enough time, 7 days.
Oh, you're a rock star. Thank you. All right, so that is moved and seconded to go to a public hearing on. Anybody know what the date of that is right off the top of your head?
It'll be the
July
6th, the 5th of July.
Fifth. Yeah,
Okay, so I will amend my motion to include a public hearing on July 5th. And will you amend your second?
Yes.
I'm like, which one you did? I don't remember. All right, is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, Dan,
Yeah.
Rick,
Yes,
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol?
yes.
All right, 5 yeses. We'll move that forward to public hearing. All right, next up, we have new business. We have a couple of appointments. And, all right, so first up is a new appointment, and it's for Nicholas Alexander to be on the transfer station and recycle. Is it a reappointment, or this is your first appointment? I circled it, and I think I also had re-sucked in there.
New appointment.
A new appointment for the Transfer Station and Recycling Committee, and the Transfer Station and Recycling Committee. Wow, my brain just fried right there. Recommends
Yep.
approval. Wow. All right, Nicholas, how many committees will this make?
2.
2?
Yep.
Okay, what's your limit?
I don't know.
Trying to think, we've probably got a couple other ones we can find a spot for you on. All right. What makes you want to do this?
Just to get more experience in town government. That's yeah. On different issues.
Are you a crazy recycler?
No.
Well, you're gonna be. It's part of the initiation process.
That's good to know.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Nicholas?
Move we accept his.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
All right. So Barbara and Ricky, you both tied on the motion for that, so we'll go Ricky first on this one, and we'll take Barbara for second.
That's fine.
All right, if there's no more discussion. Dan,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes,
Carol,
yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right. 5-0. Welcome aboard, Nick. Again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next up, we have Stuart McConnell for an appointment as library trustee. Is Stuart with us this evening?
I don't think so. And I don't think this is considered a new appointment because it's been a while since a renewal.
Yeah,
Reappointment.
it's a new appointment.
It's a new appointment because it's been 20 years since
Yeah,
he's been.
So
on.
I'll make a motion, we table it until
So he can join us.
you join us.
I'll
second
second that. Oh. All right, all those in favor of tabling it, Ricky,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yeah,
Barbara.
Yes,
All right, we'll table that one until the next meeting. Well, until he can join us. All right, next up, we have Board of Parks and Recreation requests. I'll take a motion to open that item.
so moved.
second.
All right, moved and seconded, that is open for discussion. I feel like the first part of this, I would like for us to table the conversation about the installation of a hybrid hot water heater or heat pump. Because we don't have a whole plan. Or cost savings, or what the estimates are, or,
Some use of oil, it's an easy one from there. I mean, I don't care either way, I'm just as a taxpayer, I know what roughly goes in, about 1,000 gallons of oil in the summertime, just for hot water.
now what about a hot water on demand? Seems like overall the cost would be quite a bit less. We'd only be activating it when you needed the hot water.
Now, the difference is you're still, propane is still fairly expensive. Where
So
you're,
is electricity. Yeah,
well, but with the hybrid, it works more off of the heat in the building, which we get tremendous heat in the summertime. in that building.
so you do,
I can tell you, most people out there right now are going away from the on-demand and going to the hybrids. That's the trend right now.
Is there
yeah, go ahead, Danny.
is there a reimbursement on that for commercial applications? I assume ours would be.
It's a instant rebate, so you get, whatever the instant rebate, whatever the tank cost is at the time of purchase. It's a lot cheaper than a regular hot water tank. I can tell you that.
So this is just basically a heat pump water tank. It's what my daughter has in her basement. That's what we put in.
And just use it in the summer months when you're not running the boiler, so you shut the boilers down. Because right now, to heat hot water in that building, how that building is designed,
And how
So
much
when
hot water do they use in that building?
there's a 40-gallon tank, indirect hot water, okay, which is heated off the boilers.
So then it just keeps kicking on to keep that water, even if they're not using the water, keep it. And that tank is insulated?
It's insulated, super insulated, you can't even feel the heat on it. But to get the water to that tank from the boilers, it has to circulate all the way around the whole building to heat that one zone. Now, I've been telling multiple boards this for multiple years, but that's been an ongoing problem, that's one of the ongoing problems, that building, with the efficiency of heating that building is, but it's very expensive to fix it the right way, but this is a easy fix to save, a lot of money in the summer months.
So this isn't, I guess I was picturing like heat pumps like this, like we were saying, let's put these in. So this is,
Looks like a water heater tank.
It's a water
Looks
heater
like
with a big
tank,
air
like a
conditioner
water
on the
heater
top,
tank.
it's basically what it is.
Water tank.
Yeah, hot water tank with a big air conditioner on top
and where would that go?
in the boiler room. I would not put another tank up on that mezzanine.
What's the price? Bruce?
I'm guessing, I haven't talked to Dan, see how much his side of it is, but ours would probably be about 1,500 also.
With the purchase of the,
Tank.
including labor.
Yeah, then you'd have
Yeah,
the
right.
electrical.
Because I know when my dog put her tank in, it was actually, the tank didn't cost him anything.
Yeah, now it does, tanks are going up. Right?
So an easy calculation on this, I assume, you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know what we're paying for diesel. I think it's market rate right now.
Yep.
For ID bill. So say that's $4, roughly $4.50.
493 as of yesterday.
Well, just say $4, because anything that goes up above that more. So if you burn 1,000 gallons, that's $4,000 for the summer heating water, and then you're paying 1,600 plus Dan, say it's another 500 to all four.
costs.
Now, would there be any issues with that boiler room get so hot in that room, like physically hot in there to have?
No, we actually don't have air conditioning.
Yeah, because it's taking the heat from the air and putting it into the water and blowing out the cold air that's left
Takes the heat out of the building.
of the building.
Yeah, it takes the heat out of the building to heat your hot water.
But if it's in that boiler room and we keep that door closed,
You
and,
have your, you have your,
Your
you have your bench, you have your combustion air.
because I'm
vents in
just
the
wondering
doors.
if it's in that room, if then the air conditioner part of that is gonna run more
No,
because of that small space being so hot.
no, it's not considered a small space for on demand. A small space would be a closet. That's not considered a small space. That's an active space for a 50 gallon.
It's not really an air conditioner. It's just a compressor that pulls the heat out of the air to heat the water.
Right.
It's throwing cold air out.
Yeah, it actually dehumidifies.
Right.
Right.
What my daughter's
Yeah.
basement helps dehumidify it.
Yeah, it'll take, because that's where your water system is. It condensates all day long in the summertime. That will stop that condensation, which will stop any mold production in that room.
They aren't a bad deal. Right now, yeah, heating oil right now, AFC's locked in price. I got a halfway decent price. It's $4.30 a gallon.
So I guess, I mean, I'm not loath to it. I think I'd just like to see like a whole proposal. And
But the same thing is, I'll tell you, just like Allstate told you, I can give you a proposal, but it's gonna be a lot more money if I give you a quote than it is if I do it by the time material.
if you do it by the what?
And if I give you a quote, it's gonna be a lot more money than if I give you time material. I can only guarantee a price for one day. That's it. So if I get a price to do this tomorrow, I can only guarantee it tomorrow. I can't guarantee it the next day. That's how much stuff, our stuff is
It's
going on.
fluctuating.
It seems like it's a good idea.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't.
Seems
look
to
like
make sense.
Heating oil is gonna go down anytime soon.
No, I don't see, it. I mean, I've checked with 4 oil companies, and
So then what do we do with the water heater that's there now?
you use it in the winter months. This is not something you use in the winter months, because in the winter months, you don't want to steal the heat from a building to heat hot water.
Right.
Because you. and
You
want
want
it
it, right,
circular.
so
heat
you want
off
it to
the-
go back to use the upstairs.
So this is an additional piece of equipment, not
Right.
replacing some.
Correct.
Okay.
This is just to use in the summer months.
Yeah.
Basically, what I do is in April, usually April 15th, I go in and I disconnect the heat, but not the hot water. And then I go back in October 15th, unless we get real cold September. October 15th, I turn the heat back on. I've done that for 15 years or more.
What if we get real cold on June 19th?
Last year, last year.
I finally put my heat on for a few hours.
I did too.
Last year was the 4th of July.
It was cold, put
I
it
was
on for
like-
about 4 hours
When
and
it
said,
was
okay.
60 in the house, I was like, okay, that's it, I give. All right.
Well, this makes sense to me.
I can get a price up, like I said, it's gonna be more money if I have to put it, put it on paper than do it by time and material. Just because I have to escalate it so much more. I'm guessing at least 10% more than what it would be by hour.
Let's do it.
What do you think, Ricky?
What?
I want Ricky has chimed in. Forgive.
You ask, what's the rest of the committee say, the rec committees, they in favor of it?
So the
Unanimous.
Recreation Committee says the BPR wants to make sure that efficiency made is consulted regarding rebates. Aaron Pileski made a motion to recommend that a heat pump water heater be added to the Center for All Seasons, that the possibility of a rebate is investigated and that the funds are taken from the Recreation Reserve account.
seconded and approved unanimously. So
Yeah.
the committee did
Okay.
approve it unanimously.
I'm fine with that.
Any efficiency mean rebate is an instant rebate. So when I purchase a tank, I put an address on it, that rebate's instant, comes right off the tank.
Probably not a bad thing to try.
$750 rebate,
Yeah, so that's what it was
yeah,
years ago. They
Yeah.
had changed.
hasn't changed. The rebate actually went up $100, it was
Okay.
$650. And when tanks went up 100, the rebate went up 100.
That's what I heard you tell me. Subsidization.
I guess I can support it.
You can support that, Ricky?
Yep.
Okay,
Move we approve the installation, purchase and installation of a hybrid hot water heater for the Center Falls seasons.
with the monies to come out of the,
The money is to come out of the recreation reserve account.
Second,
all right, that's moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Dan,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes,
Carol?
yes,
All right, 5 yeses on that. All right, next up, we have 2 facility rental forms were examined for wording clarification. Specifically, the language regarding nonprofit use of facilities was discussed. The following would be added to the general form, and the last line of the secondary fee schedule form used when alcohol is served would be changed to the following. Nonprofit organizations based in the town of Belgrade may be exempt from being charged a rental fee for town recreation facilities. Any exemption from rental fees is subject to the review and discretion of the recreation director. Exemptions will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Organizations must provide proof of nonprofit status. Also, contact names on the contract need to be updated to Dan McGlashing, as either Anthony or Chris work for the town. The BPRS wants flexibility to update contracts as necessary in the future. Cindy, I made the motion for the amendments above.
oh, are these the separate, these are the separate papers that we have here.
yeah.
Is that, because I was going back
I
and
know,
forth. I
is
was like, what, where am I supposed to be finding
Yeah, I
this?
think there's separate papers that were in front of us. So Ricky may not have them.
So we got the Dan's emergency is on red at the back. And then they've listed this, so it's a form that can be used for both properties.
Well, wouldn't emergencies be to first call 911 and then contact the recreation director? So this, I already am like, that we gotta do.
Who's putting this in for changes on this?
Well, Dan had asked, the new recreation director had asked, told me he was gonna ask the Board of Parks and Recreation to take a look at the contracts, because they hadn't been updated since 2012. And some of the stuff was obsolete. And he said he felt like the rec director was put in a bad position because some for-profit organizations assumed that they didn't have to pay rental fees because they hadn't in the past. And some nonprofits were using it. And could they use that? You know, are they a registered nonprofit? He couldn't find any certification. So he's trying to clean up some of that process. I personally don't feel like the recreation director should be deciding on their own whether an organization should be paying a fee or not paying a fee. Because part of what we're trying to do is have everybody has the same playing field.
Right. I mean,
Because
because
then-
nonprofit organization operating within the town of Belgrade being exempt, then that should be pretty straightforward. Most nonprofit organizations are.
Right.
So just a question. So you have a book group and your book group wants to meet at the Center for All Seasons. It's not going to be nonprofit. Is it going to be allowed to meet without being charged?
Probably not.
I mean, as I read through this, this is several different things, not just one thing in change. Shouldn't we?
And then we got stuff tonight, Ricky, that you don't have.
Oh, okay.
Because I was trying to figure out where this new wording was and all of this stuff that was in the books. And I was having a hard time trying to figure out what we were supposed to be figuring out.
Right,
But
it's not clear what's changed in all the other materials that we were
Right.
given, if anything.
And then my other question is, should we have the Village Green on here as a facility that could be rented?
Yes.
Or we would need to add that facility?
This is serving alcohol. This is for facilities serving alcohol.
They could be serving alcohol in Village Green, too.
Can they?
Have a wedding someone wants to have?
Can't bring it public.
If you just
Huh?
got this new package tonight, how you gonna deal with it until you have a chance to really look it over?
Right.
I mean,
No, we got
this is,
this, just this one form tonight.
well, even if you did one form, we should have it before the night of the meeting. So that we can look at it, discuss it amongst ourselves if we have to.
Well, and somebody should be here from the
Right,
Board of
Dan's-
Parks and
Dan's
Rec.
not
Absolutely.
here.
and Linda's
I
not
make a
here.
motion, we table this.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, moved and seconded.
Shut that shit.
All right, is there any further discussion on tabling it?
No,
No.
All right. Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Barbara?
yes,
Carol?
Yeah,
All right, 5 yeses. We will table that until at least the next meeting or two.
I think it needs to be
And we-
broken down a little bit so that you're not everything in that policy at one time. You need to be able to figure it out so you do a good job, not a, I want to say something, but not junk.
well, and I would ask that that we resolve the question of if you have a book group of people from Belgrade who want to meet, is there a fee?
well, there's a Belgrade
Absolutely.
resident and non-Belgrade resident.
Well, book group I'm just saying, on some of those, some clarification, I don't know.
And
If you
have
a
somebody
Belgrade
there
resident-
represent.
Okay, so it says
Right.
Center for All Seasons resident, $50 an hour. North Belgrade resident, $15 an hour. So if you wanted to use it for your book group, it looks like
Looks like
you would
you'd
have
be
to pay
paying.
$50 an hour.
So
If
your
you
book
serve
group goes,
alcohol, if you serve alcohol,
and if you don't serve alcohol?
I don't know. Oh, no, this says regular facilities. Oh, I'm sorry, anyway, it's not very
Anyway,
clear.
it's
So
not
let's-
clear.
Let's put it aside. We
Yeah.
already decided that.
Okay,
All right, next up, we have the Center for All Seasons painting quote for the porch. We'll take a motion to open that item.
so moved.
Moved by Carol this time and seconded by Barbara.
Just gotta keep things moving along.
All right, that item is open for discussion. So I did contact the third painter and he said, there's no way, Melanie, I can get that done before July, but I could have it done before the end of the summer. I said that won't help, but thanks anyway.
So this all stemmed out of the appearance of the back porch of the Center for All Seasons. As you know, the Article 31 in the 2019 warrant authorized the board of selectmen to investigate a cost-effective approach to maintenance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 3/4 of the building was in fact done, but then there's a hold on the rest of the facility because either money was ran short or there wasn't a decision for the extension. I don't know in terms of the story here. So that back porch was one of the areas that wasn't really finished. And I know, Melanie, you and I went up there one day, and I don't know if I went with you, but I went up there one day, and it was
I think
appalling for me to look at.
I went up and then said, have you seen this?
So I believe that we should do something for the appearance, and July 1st is when really a lot of the events start. It needs at least be painted on the back and the sides around the porch. I talked to Dan, he said he had talked to Linda about going back to the neutral, the brown, I'm coming white. So the post being brown, leave the white trim out until the rest of the work gets done. Just go back to the kind of colors that were there. With one exception. On the peak of the roof, as you're going in, there's that piece that's painted white underneath, and it's white on the outside. That, because I believe the trim work was brought down to that level, so that probably should be like white. But we can get it done by July, according to one bid. The other bid, which he estimated at 7,200, and thereabouts. He said we'd start whenever we get to the, whenever he gets the word to go. So I don't know how you want to go. I don't even know if you want to do this, but the money could be taken from the reserve, because that's essentially what the warrant article says. Although I just don't know. It just, something needs to be done up there, and I thought paying that back towards the county investment.
And rec committees seen these?
I can't tell you that the rec committee has seen these particular quotes. I can tell you that I've been talking through Dan to make sure that he's been contacting Linda and the rec committee about the fee for paint.
I mean, I don't want to take the money out of their capital reserve without the board approval.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Don't do that.
Okay, so. Okay,
Problem is, this is our last meeting in June.
So they could call a special meeting,
And then we would have to call a special meeting to approve.
or
We can approve it subject
it
to-
subject to the approval of
Subject to
the
their
rec committee.
Yeah,
I'm
one
happy
problem,
with that.
If you look at the one bid, the lower bid, I got a text tonight.
Yeah, I'm almost comfortable with paying 50% down.
Text from him says, let me know what the verdict is when you find out whether you get sued or not. I can start Thursday or Friday, if so, otherwise I'm off to Rangeley. Thanks for the opportunity either way. So he's got a job up in Rangeley, he can start if we don't.
If he doesn't do
or,
this
or
one.
he was like, let me know, I'm on my way to Rangeley, I can start this Thursday or Friday, but I'm gonna be out of, you can't talk to me for the next 2 days, because I'm gonna be in Rangeley, is what that,
No, the way.
is what that sounded like to me.
Conversation was that he needed to know so he could start.
He
He
doesn't
could
start here,
either
he's gonna
start
work somewhere
Rangeley
else.
after, or,
And he says he can squeeze it in, so.
so do we know on the one that's 7,400, like what preparation of porch rails, posts and trim? This one says the process will be to spray the mold with an eco-friendly building cleaner.
Well, Jamie Norman is the second. I understand that he does an outstanding job. And as he says, this is the upper end, he doesn't think it'll cost that much. So I don't know. I don't know any more about it than that. I basically tried to get quotes to get it done before July 1st is what I was trying to do. And trying to keep Dan involved so that Dan could keep. the board part.
Right. I mean, I look at
It's
the
a
one
big
that says it
difference.
could be
Difference.
less.
Yeah, but it's
It's a
$3,000.
dramatic difference, and
It's
he's
$3,000 difference. between
quoting
the two
how to
bids.
protect himself. I think if we have one from the other guy, we should go ahead and accept it. I mean, this is sort of where we're at with, you know, all these paving things. It's like, well, we'll get the number, we'll let you know. And
But Ricky's point was having approval of board parks and rec, which we already did.
right, I mean,
We
if
can
we
approve-
approve it
if we
subject
approve
to
it.
their approval, they call a quick meeting amongst themselves or however they do it and say, yes, we want to move forward, then
And if this guy's in another job, then we might not get it done until after. I'm
that's
just
up to
saying.
how quickly Parks and Rec can make a decision.
Okay.
I mean, I can just call everybody.
Probably
I was
could make
gonna
a
say, they
phone
could
call.
everybody and say, yes, we want to do it, and take out a reserve account, then give them
Isn't that
tomorrow
what
to
the-
do it.
Isn't
them
this
know.
what the reserve account was?
Scott, did you see these bids?
Who?
What?
Yes.
Scott's on here.
Oh. I thought
Yes.
you-
Yes, I did.
And what's your opinion?
Cheaper than I can do it.
Excuse me?
It's cheaper than what I could do it for.
Which one?
Both.
Okay,
I don't have time for it.
The other question though is how are we gonna handle the one that wants 50% down? We normally don't pay people up front.
I don't know.
Which one's that?
The cheap one.
The
Oh, that's so
He wants
expensive.
50% down.
Just so he can go to Sherwin-Williams and buy the primer and the paint and
Yeah,
the
probably.
eco-friendly
materials.
stuff and puppies and stuff he
You
keeps.
can do that, you're gonna have to start doing everybody, because right now I got $5,000 worth of equipment setting up the fire station. I just had to live it. I didn't get paid up front for that.
You didn't make it part of your contract.
Uh-oh, don't say that.
You didn't make that.
You didn't hear that.
Well, then we may have to say, I mean, if we
Well-
don't pay anything up front, if
Well,
that's our
it-
policy.
It's either that or, you know, if it's to cover his materials, if he goes and buys the stuff, comes over here, if we can approve it for us to cut him a check
Right,
to
Yeah,
cover his costs, so that
Yeah.
we do that, at least we know we own the materials.
we own the materials, right.
Yeah, as long as the
Yeah.
materials are on site.
Right.
right.
You know, I wouldn't have a problem with that if we're gonna do that, but it's,
We can have a charger ready to him.
well, yeah, I think he wants to use Sherman, is it?
Sherwin-Williams.
Sherman
Yes.
Williams stuff, so I don't
So
think he's
you're
gonna
gonna
get a van.
No, because you have to go to
I,
Sherwin-Williams.
I've dealt with, I used to hire a painter, and that's all he used was
Yeah, I
Sherman
was
Williams
gonna say,
stuff, some of
right.
them, that's very specific on
Yeah,
what they
my
do.
contractor is all Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Yeah, last time I had my house done. was
I mean, I can check
like,
tomorrow and see what he's, you know, we'd have to put it on.
Let's just do it.
We gotta
Let's
get the
just-
board of parks and recs.
I think we should vote so that if we can put it together, it gets together.
Yeah, and if not, then we
So.
just lose the argument.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve. Ryan, is it Nezel or Nezel?
I guess, Nuzzle.
Ryan Nezel's bid. For painting the exterior backside, railings, banisters, and all the trim on the porch on the community center. Contingent on the Board of Parks and Recreation's approval and their recommendation of where to take the money from their capital reserve account.
Mhm.
And furthermore, we would request an itemized list of materials that the town could cut him a check for equivalent to 50% down. Does that sound?
Or he could submit an invoice.
He could submit for reimbursement
For
for
reim-
the cost of his materials.
See how my
So-
contract agree to most other, you know, to my contractors and stuff, is I get, like for me, it's a third. Once I drop my equipment or pipe, I get a third of my, you know, I get a third of the check, you know, third of the job. Right then and there. So it's usually on the dropping of equipment or materials, you do it, not beforehand. You get it, you know, you get it when you drop the materials. It's usually how most contracts that I have dealt with. I'm assuming that's what your contracts are too, aren't they, Jim?
No, mine are a little different, mine's 50% down. It's- I order the equipment goes to the customer at that
Right.
point, once I put 50% down.
Now,
Mary, what were you gonna say?
Melanie, how are you gonna cut a check without a warrant? Why don't we have facility maintenance for Scott or somebody go with the town credit card to pick up those supplies? That way we don't have to worry about cutting a check with a warrant. And we can use the town credit card and it will show up on the July statement.
But. So I guess because my first thought was the card, but then is the 50% down? Like what is,
I don't think he's gonna get 50%. The material
I
should
don't,
be
I don't think
50%.
so.
Yeah, material's not gonna be,
And
$2,000.
labor too.
Yeah, he's just starting up his business, and I think he's living from job to job.
Yeah. That's what it seems like.
so would that work to coordinate with facilities maintenance to go to purchase the
to go,
materials?
or to have him purchase the material and
Well, I think that certainly meet what your needs are, you know, without cutting the check, and I think Mary's right, otherwise you can't cut a check if you have a warrant, you can't pay the check if you have a warrant.
Right.
So,
Well, we chatted about that with payroll and some other stuff, but anyhow, we'll skim past that.
The only other question I have is, these are the things that he hasn't got down here, so when I talk to him tomorrow, he may very well say, I'll just go on with something else. If that happens, and this just is moved,
Right,
and then we can look at the other guy.
then we look at the other guy and see if there are any other folks.
When's the first event? Does anybody know when the first?
I think there's a wedding coming up in July, early.
Doesn't camp start
Next
the
week.
fifth?
Next week.
Yeah, because that's gonna be the other thing is camp and keeping the kids
That's
off
why
the
the
porch. The other guy
second
had it
bid-
blocked off the porch,
Basically talks about.
blocking off half.
Dan will block it off enough to get it painted. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got kids there, they have to use the other door.
Right.
That's
But
not
I
very
mean, I think
good.
the point is, it looks so terrible. I mean, we've all been talking about, people
Right.
wanting to have wedding pictures.
Yeah,
If we want to, if there's a wedding, we want to have it ready in time for the wedding.
right.
So let's just see if the guy will accept us going and paying for the materials and then.
So how does that motion read, Jenny? Did you write anything down? Or Mary? Mary, could you read back that convoluted?
Yeah, which one was that?
I think it basically is you approve Brian.
Nezel.
Nezel.
This proposal contingent upon the board of Parks and Recs approving painting and withdrawing the money from the reserve. And upon the willingness of Mr. Ryan Nezel to accept us buying the materials through our credit card as
For his
paying
down
upon the
payment.
completion of the project.
So that would be a down payment towards the completion of the project, and any monies owed at the end would be this 4,500 minus
Whatever
the
we
cost that
pay.
we've
Yeah.
already paid.
Yeah.
With no
I second that
no
motion.
escalator cost plus.
No, that's all that's what it's all.
All right, does that sound okay, Mary?
I got it.
All right. All right, is there a second for that?
I did.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Carol. All right, any further discussion? All right, Ricky,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
all right, 5 yeses. We'll keep our fingers
I'm
crossed.
gonna stick this up on the back of my book just in case. he goes.
All right, next up, we have the Belgrade Historical Society request for a storage facility to be placed at the old townhouse. Make a motion to open that.
moved.
Moved and seconded. Moved by Barbara, moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara.
Right, just to kind of open this up for you. Belgrade Historical Society is requesting a storage facility be placed somewhere on the cemetery site. This went to both the cemetery committee and the board, select board. The cemetery committee has looked at it and voted no contingent upon answering some questions of the
Some
cemetery.
questions, and in the letter we got, it stated that they were going to all the town facilities, not just the cemetery. And last time I knew, we haven't got any information back from them since I mean, correct? So,
What do you mean you're going to all the time?
because in our letter, they said they was looking for the
anywhere on
right, Center for All Seasons.
You mean that the same shed could be?
They're just looking
Could be
for a
anywhere.
storage shed somewhere.
They're gonna find
Oh,
the storage.
yeah.
They
They don't
want
They
really
want
care.
a
They
place
don't
to
care
put
where
it.
it is.
They don't
Yeah,
care
but-
what it is.
They just need storage.
Right, and
Right.
it being a historical cemetery, I don't think it would be very good, well, in my opinion, that's how I worded it at the meeting. Was, that's a historical cemetery, that's not a place for a shed.
Right, I was saying the same thing about the
If
townhouse.
If they want it close there or something, why couldn't we just put it over by the town garage?
No, because we're trying to clean the clutter up over the town garage at this point, I mean, unless you're gonna put it out back. the town
Well, that's what
garage.
I was
I don't
thinking.
think you got enough room, but on the property.
Well, it says there may be other locations the town owns that would work, so.
doesn't the, like I see my name?
Yes, you do.
Doesn't the Historical Society have some articles in the building on the community center?
They do have a room at the Center for All Seasons that they have
That's
exhibits in.
Exhibits.
I thought they might have a shed. Isn't there?
There was a shed, maybe it's still there. There was a portion of the shed where the bathrooms are,
Beyond?
up in the back there.
Or
Or no, wait.
a store?
There's the bathrooms, the shed up here, I forgot about
A
that.
store, the old store.
And you go up around back, there's a door there that has some storage, but it's, the last time I knew it was full.
I see, last time I was in there, which I had to walk doors up that there, and my building was empty.
Really? Then they must have moved the stuff out.
It may have changed since then, but when I,
No, this was years ago.
yeah, when I walked the doors up here about a month ago, it was empty.
I
Because
know
it
that wasn't
says,
an ideal storage facility because mice and.
Right,
Yeah,
and it, you know. But you, I mean, you got the sand salt shed. I don't know if there's any room there to put it down beside there. I just don't, the cemetery is not a place to start putting clutter.
Yeah.
We're trying to clean the clutter up from the cemetery, and we don't need to add more clutter.
we could have to think about it a little bit more. I don't know that anybody has an answer right off the top of their head. If the cemetery committee recommends it not be placed there. And then the rest of the letter says that there's other outbuilding.
I have the email that I got, that the town manager got.
well, what if we go back to the Historical Society and say, we're, you know, willing to entertain doing this, but you need to, the cemetery committee has recommended no. Why don't you come back to us with another location?
Yeah, maybe someone from the Historical Society can be here to plead their case,
Or to answer questions.
answer questions and any other ideas and.
Yeah, they were notified.
All right, I'm going to make a motion then we table this till
I'll
the next
follow up
meeting
with-
in July.
I'll follow up.
Okay.
All right, so I made a motion that we table. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, moved by Melanie, tabled by Barbara. All those in favor, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Rick?
Yep.
All right, 5-0. We'll table that to the next meeting. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have the main PERS agreement necessary to implement Article 1 of the 2022 warrant, providing state retirement to fire and emergency services. Take a motion to open that item,
so moved.
and I'll second it.
Second.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Melanie, thirded by Ricky. All right, this is open for discussion.
So as I understand what happened, the town approved retirement for firefighters and EMTs. So that to take effect before July 1st, which is what I understood everyone wanted to do. There's been people working back and forth to get the agreement set up. The agreement is here. In the package. And it has the interim town manager signing off on it. But you need to approve it. for us.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I move we approve the main PERS agreement necessary to implement the retirement program for the EMTs and fire department.
Seconded by Barbara?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. I don't know. And then if that's ready, Denny, I can sign that tomorrow.
what's that?
We can sign it tomorrow
I'll sign it. This is my signature.
and mine.
Oh, and yours. Okay, I didn't see that.
Well, that's okay. You just,
You have a heavier responsibility than I.
All right, next up on the agenda, we have the warrant. Do you have the warrant there, Denny? Because last time we left without signing it. All right,
Does anyone be? Never did find it.
gosh, no, I know he had a yoga night, cottage cheese.
Yeah.
We're both like a
I had
little
to go
protein
get
before
two
bed.
yogurts last night, or last night at 12 o'clock at night.
All right, so this was warrant number 69. Total amount of $143,902.90. I will take a motion to open that.
So move.
Oh,
Yeah, moved, I caught it too. Moved in, seconded by Barbara. Now that is open for discussion. Does anybody else see what the first thing is?
yeah, all state bills on there, so we're gonna pull that out for tonight.
I figured you'd see that.
Yeah.
And I got a question on the warrant.
Yes,
I think it's the second or third item down. It was for a pump rental from Augusta tool rental. Any idea what that's for? And why we rented one when facility maintenance owns a $600 one sitting in the garage?
Do we have to, do you have it in front of you, Danny, the bill?
yeah, it's under facilities.
I forgot to look this stuff up.
So Bruce,
Sorry, Dennis, I should have probably heard it.
while he's looking for that, this Atlantic Recycling, this is the new container. So did we not pay for the last container?
We did not,
Okay, because then it came and was leaking
yeah.
immediately. This one's tested and solid.
Okay. Survived the rain. That's what we was waiting for.
It's supposed to be North America.
Yes. And by check number
The
2.
third one down on our list.
I saw that, I just looking through.
Oh, it should be the third one in his pile too, but
Right.
Can I?
Yeah, it's just,
I'll
I just
respond tomorrow, and I'll let you.
want to make, make
Okay.
you aware that, but the facility doesn't want to pump that. That says cemetery.
What was that done?
Augusta tool rental, the third one down.
I know, I'm just looking for a date. 2, 6, 7.
All right, does anybody else have any questions while he's doing that?
what's the dolly? Do we rent a dolly, we buy a dolly?
Which page is that on, Dan?
Second page. Halfway down. Dolly. Facilities again,
We bought a dolly.
okay. I'm surprised. we
Apparently.
ordered one.
Apparently we don't have one, but we do now.
Okay,
I can't imagine we didn't have one.
that's weird.
How did
You and
we
me
move
both.
stuff? Yeah. And are we marking on stuff, town of Belgrade and like paint or something,
Make people,
like property of town of Belgrade?
Sure.
I think we probably should be.
It's never
Putting
stopped
prop-
anybody before.
No, but at least I'd recognize it if I see it at somebody's house. Hey, wait a minute. That belongs to all of us.
Oh, we had to replace a bunch of stuff, jack, gloves, and hose reel.
That was all before me. No idea why they did all that.
What did we DocuSign? Because we just paid $300 for DocuSigning.
That's the program.
Yeah, but I thought we couldn't use it anymore,
We-
so I just asked Mary
Right.
about somebody about it the other day, and I said, well, we can't do that anymore.
Well, apparently we can. We just paid $300.
Which one is that?
This is the DocuSign. This is on page 2. This must be on the town credit card member services. And the DocuSign membership for $300.
Oh, yeah, it's 3 up from the bottom on that page. DocuSign membership.
Okay, we'll check that out. I don't have any idea.
So we got the bill for the mowing outside the town office.
They do not have that.
How many
Oh, here it is.
how many 3-ring binders do we get for $40? 41.
We get the special one for Dan.
No, this was an old used one. We found out there.
So the Augusta tool rental is a hose discharge of 2 inches. And it's town office Belgrade. That's all I have on it. So this is item rented. 6 closed contract from 6/7 to 6/7. So PG 520. 2 inches, $6 per weight, and then 2 inch with suction at $40. So they did it for 3 hours. Is that testing the trucks?
Oh, that may be what it. no.
Because I remember Dan, the
We did
day
that.
I came on the last meeting, they were doing some poke testing.
Yeah, that's done by a company. Well, we hire a company to do that. It's not a water bill.
It doesn't say.
We use a hydrant out there.
This is facility.
So one of the things that we had talked about, Denny, and it was before you came in, but was to have when those receipts were in, like when they came in, that whoever went and did it needs to sign those receipts
Okay.
before they're turned in, because otherwise the trying to keep track of who did what with it is willy-nilly.
Great if we have a little note to say what it's for too.
Right.
Okay. We will endeavor to have, I've got a meeting tomorrow with staff on directives, so I'll make sure that they're all aware of it.
I know Scott found the pumpkins, put it where people can find it. I do know that, 'cause I asked him if it was there.
It doesn't have anything. Time out at 6/7/22 at 7:50 a.m. Return at 7:50. Return Wednesday at 7:50.
Say pump for food.
They weren't doing some work with the pool, but still you're saying that they have a pump. So
We have a pump and we have 5 pumps. It's got 4 or 5
Right.
pumps that we don't use anymore. So we need them right now.
it's just something we.
I know it's a little money, but it's just free.
No,
Well, especially when nobody's had authorization to just go do what.
right.
No, did you want to see Mary on the DocuSign?
Yeah, Mary, what's the scoop on the DocuSign? Do you know?
I have no idea. I don't know when that was authorized. It was on a credit card statement, so it must have been for the month of May, because we get billed.
So $300 a month?
I have,
Probably an annual.
I was gonna
Annual.
say, because I don't remember seeing it on there before, but if we're
That's
paying
what-
$300 a month and we're not using it, thing needs to go.
$300 a year not using it, should go.
Exactly, it should go.
I think
So we should probably look and see
But
if it's
we
an
use it, I mean,
automatic.
It is handy. I don't know.
Yeah, but I came in to sign that warrant we missed. And I said, how come you just didn't send it out DocuSign? And they said, no, you can't do that anymore. The state's changed now. The regulations now that people are meeting.
no more
Person.
DocuSign. Yeah,
No more DocuSign,
Oh,
so.
no, more DocuSign.
For anything?
So Denny, can we get some of our money back on DocuSign then if we can't use it?
It may have been an automatically recurring
Right.
credit card charge.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like a
We'll just
subscription.
dispute it.
Yeah,
Or something they have come in. I don't know. So we're not doing that. I'm thinking that real clearly.
that's everything nice.
All right, the only other thing I've got is under pine tree waste. Is that is the porta potties, correct? So I thought we paid more for the handicapped accessible one at the Village Green, but the cost on here is the same.
So we have several handicap ones.
And so we should have, because I kind of squawked about it, like, we're only, is that the only one we need folks to know? Come on down to the village to go pee.
Oh, there's a handicap one.
Cemetery, one
Cemetery.
down Belgrade.
Maybe they're all handicapped.
Maybe they're all
Maybe they're all
handicapped
I
now.
think they are.
Okay,
I think that was what we decided last year,
that would be better then.
since they're all the same.
All right, so what we need is a new total to vote on. This will fall off the all state.
I can tell you one thing, they need to be clean. They are nasty.
Yeah, and if they're not coming on a regular basis,
Okay, so I'll look at, let me see.
I mean, they are full of dirt, everything inside them. Terrible.
And what about asking them if one of their trucks clipped the sign at the Village Green?
yeah, did we find anything out about that
The
sign?
only, that's the only supposition, there is no really way to prove it. I went up and looked myself. Could have happened if they got too close, but, you know, it's just one of those things, I don't know how to prove it, and we don't have a camera. So it's our word against theirs, but I will ask.
I say you can ask because they did admit when they backed the wood, was pick it up for the cemetery.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll ask, it's just that.
I mean, they were nice enough to leave the half of the sign that came down, so.
I mean, cemetery, they didn't only back over once, it backed over twice.
Okay, so the new total should be $106,380.64.
And that includes the 300 for that design.
Includes the
For now.
300 for DocuSign right now, yes. So the only thing I took out of it was
37.
all states construction. So 106.
And actually, I hate to pull everything out for all state. I don't know if we ought to think about do the original amount and just subtract the disputed amount for now. At least get them a check for that.
Well, is the 37,522 including the 8,000?
Yeah, because it's got the new total of the tons of asphalt on it.
Yeah, I would think that, I mean,
Yeah.
we should pay him. He's obviously got a bunch of money sitting out there. To wait 2 more weeks to get paid. Take out the 8,000. The dispute. I mean, that shows we're in good faith
Yeah.
doing, and, you know, hope that we can come to some agreement.
So let me add back 29,522.26.
It'll be
That puts us at
143 minus 8, so.
135,902.90.
Be 143,902 minus 8,000, right?
Which is 135,902.90.
Oh, 135, I'm sorry.
Right, is there anything, there's nothing else that we were taking out, right?
There's questions, but
Right. All right, so that's the new total for warrant number 69. All right, motion and seconded. Any further discussion? Ricky, you didn't have anything?
I got sick of looking at it. I went through it and through it.
He was trying.
All right, so what's your
I'm
pleasure?
tired.
All right, so did you say yes?
Yeah,
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, Dan?
yes.
All right, 5 yeses, that warrant is approved.
Okay.
All right, next up, we have town manager updates, so town manager report.
I'm gonna try to be real quick. Waste management, rate increase went into effect July, or will be going into effect July 1st. It's an increase of 3% based on our contract we signed back in 2019. So they're implementing that 3% rate increase, just for your information. As you know, we no longer have a fuel contract that left us in that ran out on June 1st. But I have contacted Augusta Fuel Company, who were the ones that we contracted with. And I don't remember his name.
Palmetto.
Paul, that, I don't need to.
Let's call him God, Paul.
Paul and I talked about this. I was wondering whether or not he'd come up with a contract for diesel fuel. He said, look, I'll try to keep your propane fuel below $2. He said, I can do that. He says, but on the other fuel, there's no sense even looking for us to sign a contract until sometime toward the end of August. And of course, we go out the bid for that, but he's always been the lowest. They live in town, so they treat us well. But he said, it just, he said the market is topsy-turvy. In other words, if we were to try to contract for out further than out the normal time that we do, it could end up biting us.
Right.
So that's that. So we're going right now forward just the way we have.
Did we top off all of our tanks before
What
June
we had
1st?
left in that contract.
Okay. I thought we were there, but just checking to see if it was done.
So as I understand it, a while back, Michael Bartner from Revision Energy contacted us to determine whether or not we wanted a solar project, or if the town wanted to do a solar project like the transfer station. And I told him we were working on a solar rule, and I doubt anyone would want to do something until after that solar rule is implemented. He said, well, you really don't need the solar rule to do a transfer station type project. It would fit right into the site. I said, well, I'd bring it to you and update you, but it was, like I said, it wouldn't be until after November that the solar rule would be implemented. I doubted the town would move forward unless that rule was implemented. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a look at it if we,
and if everyone wants a piece of it, I'll forward it to you. Okay.
Send it, but until we get the rules in place,
Right.
I'm not gonna circumvent the rules.
Right.
right.
Always get the rules.
So,
No, I was just
But
thinking,
it's just for our
just see
use.
what
It's not-
they're
it's not for-
even,
It's not for commercial use. It would just be for our own.
right, but then again,
Yeah, it's the appearance.
okay, an update on vacant positions. The facility supervisor section position, we currently have 5 applicants. There's supposed to be another one sending his application in shortly. That has been a sexton over at Farmington and worked there for a good number of years, a sexton as well as compliance. So I was just waiting. I told Mike about that today. We don't know. There's an opening on Wednesday. I believe we're going to have 2 people interviewing on July 7th. And we might slide it in there. So we got those set up and going, and it's still up on Indeed. There's one person that applied today that I'm really looking closely at. I asked Mike whether or not it's something that he wants to look at with the rest of the group. So we'll keep you up to date on that. The ACO position has been advertised on Indeed, the town website, MMA, the marquee, virtually and posted all around town, I believe Mary said. Right, Mary?
Yeah.
Anyhow, we have to decide what we're going to do in the interim, if we don't get one after July 1st. Barry sent out a form to the state saying that we would rely on Kennebec County Sheriff's Office and or the state police to do emergency calls. Dexter Bridges used to be the code of the ACO at one time. He's out of state right now. I can't talk to him, and I'm trying to contact some other towns. I know Rome recently had on their agenda item an animal control officer, so I don't know where all that stands with around the surrounding town. They're hard to come by. So anyhow, that's, we're looking. The one question I do have that I wanted to follow up with you folks on is the Galt Lake property. I sent out an update after the last board meeting indicating that the property lease company had said they might have someone, but he has a dog and a cat, and I didn't get any responses back as to whether or not that's something we'd entertain. Our contract, not a contract. our contract basically, our agreement, I guess, basically says you can do that, but you have to charge an extra
Extra
fee.
money. Okay.
So I passed that on. I don't know whether you want me to tell them, yeah, if you can get someone with it or not. I just throw that out to you, so I know what direction
I'm fine if there's a pet deposit, but I would also want to make sure that the dogs, if they have a dog, it's not loose on the property. That the dog has to be tethered anytime it's outside of the building.
Okay.
Because if we have kids at the Santa Claus seasons and they're, that's my thought. Anyone else?
I would prefer not to have pets. All we need to do is have a dog go over there that's kid camps and somebody get bit or something happen.
Frightened. You're just frightened.
Now, what about cat?
Cats, I'm a little
I don't have a problem
more
with
lenient
cats.
with. I still would prefer to see the extra fee because
Because
you
cats,
get,
oh yeah, they like to
do it.
claw
they
stuff.
claw stuff. Cat pee and rugs, I don't know what, if it's a
I
cat.
mean, those are all four.
Yeah, okay, but still, the smell, you try to get,
Well, I've been
you
there.
know, it's, so, yeah, I mean, as long as cats, I don't have a problem with, as long as we get the extra fees and deposits and stuff.
So
We
I would be in favor of no dogs, because I just think it's so close to the,
Yeah, unless you put a poundage, no dogs over, any dog under 20 pounds or so, you could do the little ones,
So
but
20 pounder can go
I
on.
can see this will
Yeah,
give you
just say no
dogs.
dogs.
no
then.
dogs.
Okay,
No dogs, no rabbits, no chickens, no
No-
farm
no
animals.
cats.
The only thing
Well,
allowed is a cat.
chickens you can't do, believe it or not.
because there's a state law that allows you to
The
have chickens.
new constitutional amendment, right to food, you can have chickens any way you want
It also provides for a right to hunt. We got that into the Constitution.
Now, will that supersede a deed restriction? Because like if I brought my chickens back, I have to have signed written permission from my
Or
neighbors.
you'd have to go to court.
them. You'd have to go to court to fight it if you, if the town wouldn't let you do it, you'd have to go to court, but you'll actually probably end up winning.
Mine are like, they will find a watch going on.
So the only other thing I want to just quickly let you know, that whole issue, I sent out the email on email addresses and stuff, and it created quite a significant amount of conversation, which is good. I'm checking with Main Security, not Main Security, Main Technology Group, which is our service provider. But the whole thing is, if there's a Freedom of Information request, if we don't know that all the emails that are being passed around between committees and all of that are going to our server, then every one of those computers would have to be accessible to make sure they get all of the information. And if you remember back when we were talking with, when Ernie was on the board, he was saying all of the email has to go, we're preserving all those emails and stuff. Well, that was the reason. We went to this new provider. The only way I believe they can make sure that that's happening is if we have a dummy email address, and we're trying to find out exactly what. So if there was an email address that was sent to the town that would go through our server, then that would capture all those. So that would mean that all of the committees and stuff would essentially have this in their address group. I don't want it to be town manager, no, right now, because the box would fill up. So we're looking at solutions to this that go above and beyond the Gmail, which is one way of avoiding the problem, but it doesn't send it here to save it on our computer.
Yeah, you'd have to have CC it to another address.
Right. So we're looking at that, and I got an invite to a meeting that said mandatory from John Perkins, the MTD, at the Center, the Seven Lakes Alliance Group. I don't know why. I don't think this discussed this. It's about security issues, but I'm going to bring it up with them as well. We got a request into them as well, email request. So that's just update you on that. And then the only few other things I got, I want to bring up in the personal executive session.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have anything else? All right, seeing none, I will take a motion for a 2-minute break between now and executive session.
I'm
I'm gonna split you two up.
I know, but it keeps things moving along.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor of taking a break. Dan,
Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
You're gonna start on that heat- you're gonna start on that heat pump heater tomorrow?
Well, I can get it tomorrow, problem.
So I'll
Where's
stop
that for
recording.
signature? Yes, we're in the pause recording. I will take a motion to exit executive session and re-enter the select board meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol. All those in favor? Oh, I have to say Ray's name.
Yes.
Dan, Carol,
yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Rick. All right, 5 yeses. We're back in the select board meeting. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Carol,
Second.
seconded by Barbara. All those in favor? Dan,
Yes.
Rick, Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. We are adjourned.
All
Have a
right.
good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Rick,
Yeah.
you want to go down to 99?